The last time Sarah was seen, she was wearing a green raincoat, black and white trousers, and orange and green sneakers. That evening, on March 3, 2021, she suddenly disappeared. Sarah Everard was a 33-year-old woman from York, England, and had been living in South London until 2021. She was very close to her family, especially having a very good relationship with her mother and sister. She graduated from Durham University in 2008 and then moved to London. There she worked as a marketing manager. Sarah loved life, had a good relationship with her boyfriend, enjoyed her work, made time for her friends and family, and had a calm, healthy life. It was completely out of character for her to suddenly run away or want to withdraw from everything. That night, she left a friend's house in South London and started walking home, a journey of about 50 minutes. The last time she was seen was at 9:30 p.m., when a camera from one of the houses on Poinders Road captured her image. Her boyfriend and family tried to contact her for several days in a row but were unsuccessful. Each of them thought maybe Sarah had a reason for not answering, but after 3 days, on March 6, everyone realized that no, Sarah had really disappeared. She hadn't gone to work, hadn't called anyone, and hadn't even returned home. The London Metropolitan Police opened a case for her on the same day and gave the CCTV photos and videos they had of her to the media. Photos and videos of Sarah were spread everywhere, from newspapers and websites to social media and television. Everything was filled with Sarah's image in the hope that someone might be able to help or provide a clue. The police initially didn't have any specific evidence, but they checked the cameras in the area one by one until they found a video showing Sarah getting into a rented car. By checking the car's license plate number, they found that this vehicle had been rented in the city of Kent and brought to London. The information of the person who rented the car was fake. That is, the person had rented the car with a counterfeit ID, but the police didn't give up. They went and checked the cameras in the surrounding area and finally found a suspect, a 48-year-old man named Wayne Cousins. And the strange thing was that this man was himself a Metropolitan Police officer. From here, the case became a bit more complicated because when the police found out the person they were looking for was one of their own officers, they became somewhat flustered. Why? Because in such a situation, no one would ever think that a police officer, especially in 2021, would do such a thing. If he were an ordinary person, they might have arrested him much sooner. But no one expects a law enforcement officer to break the law himself. Who was this Wayne Cousins? Wayne was born in 1973 in Kent, England. Not much information is available about his siblings, but we know he lived with his parents until high school. They had a relatively ordinary and calm life, from a middle-class family. He was a good student in school. His grades were always good, but he didn't continue his education after high school. In 2002, he underwent the necessary training and joined the Metropolitan Police Force in England. Cousins lived with his wife, Elena Cousins, and 2 small children. With the salary he earned from his job, he had provided a comfortable and carefree life for them. He was about 173 cm tall, weighed approximately 80 kg, had thinning hair, and blue eyes. On February 28, 2021, Cousins rented a white car online from the same city of Kent. 4 days later, on March 3, at 7 p.m., his 12-hour shift ended. He drove toward Kent to pick up the rented car and bring it to London. At about 9 p.m., he was seen on a street in London. That same night at 9 p.m., Sarah Everard also left her friend's house and decided to walk the way back home. She talked on the phone with her boyfriend for about a quarter of an hour and then continued walking. Her route was about a 50-minute walk. It was exactly 9:28 p.m. when the camera on Poinders Road recorded her image. Cousins parked his car on the side of the sidewalk at 9:34 p.m. When he saw Sarah, he got out and approached her. He showed his police badge and, under the pretext of violating COVID restrictions, told her that he had to arrest her because at that time, due to the lockdown, no one had the right to be out of their house without a reason. Sarah, trusting him and seeing that he had a police badge, got into his car, thinking she was actually being arrested. Cousins left London and headed toward Kent, When they got there, they got out of the rented car and got into his personal car. It is likely that by that point, Sarah had suspected something was wrong, but there was really nothing she could do. Since Cousins was an armed officer, meaning, apart from his badge, he always carried a weapon, Sarah knew this. She knew that if she tried to fight him, it would only make things worse. From this point on, we don't know exactly what happened, but what was learned from the examination of Cousins' mobile phone is that he was constantly using his phone between 11:53 p.m. and 12:57 a.m. By the way, Cousins was very active on social media, but after his arrest, the police deleted all his accounts. According to the investigation, somewhere between 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. on March 4, he raped and sexually assaulted Sarah. Then, at 2 a.m., he took a car seat belt, wrapped it around Sarah's neck, and strangled her to death. And exactly after this horrible crime, he went to a cafe and bought a drink for himself, as if he hadn't done anything. No one knows whether Sarah's body was still in the car at that time or where he put the body that night because he never spoke about it and the evidence has not yet been able to prove anything exactly. We only know that on the morning of the same day, March 4, at 8:30 a.m., he returned the rented car, and on the way, he threw Sarah's mobile phone into a river. A few days later, without the slightest suspicion falling on him, he went to work, but his mental state was completely in disarray. Stress and anxiety were evident in his behavior. He even told a few of his colleagues that he wasn't feeling well and no longer wanted to carry a weapon. On March 5, Cousins bought 5 liters of gasoline and went to a wooded and abandoned area. There, he put Sarah's body inside an old refrigerator, poured gasoline on it, and set it on fire. Then, he went to a store and bought several garbage bags. It was completely clear that he was falling apart. His anxiety was getting worse day by day. He was probably feeling guilty, or maybe he was just terrified of getting caught because he was a police officer and knew that sooner or later he would be exposed. Every day, he was following the news of Sarah's case from within the police system until finally, on March 8, he handed over his weapon, handcuffs, and other equipment, and the next day, on March 9, the police went to Cousins' family home. He was arrested there on suspicion of kidnapping Sarah Everard. This was because, according to security camera footage, the last person who had seen and spoken to Sarah was none other than Wayne Cousins, and this was enough for him to become a suspect. This time, however, Cousins entered the police station not as a police officer as he always did, but as a suspect in a kidnapping, and this was one of the biggest tragedies for the Metropolitan Police. A police officer who becomes a murderer, and a sexually motivated one at that, one who randomly selects someone off the street, arrests her, takes her away, assaults her, and then kills her is truly unbelievable in 2021. This can really destroy people's entire trust in the system. In short, the police arrested Cousins. In the first interrogation, when they put a picture of Sarah in front of him, he calmly said, "I don't know this woman at all. I've never seen her." It was a truly foolish move, especially when there was a video of you, the cameras had recorded everything, and you were a police officer yourself. Cousins denied all the accusations. Of course, remember that at this point the case was still only at the level of kidnapping, and since the body had not been found, the police could not press murder charges or keep him in custody for longer. The investigation turned to Cousins' background. They found out that he had gone to brothels multiple times and had even had a relationship with a prostitute a few weeks before Sarah's disappearance, but he hadn't paid her. Because of this, some criminals had threatened him and said they would kill his wife and children. Another thing also became clear. In 2015, a man with his trousers pulled down was arrested in a car. The case was incomplete, but many suspect that the man was Cousins and that they deliberately wanted to cover up the incident. In any case, the March 8 arrest did not lead anywhere because there was not enough evidence to hold him, so after an interrogation, he was released. But exactly 7 days after Sarah's disappearance, at 4:20 p.m. on March 10, the police found several large garbage bags in an area called Hodes. Inside were human remains. These bags were only 100 meters away from a piece of land that belonged to Cousins. The remains were immediately sent for forensic examination. 2 days later, on March 12, using dental records, it was determined that the remains belonged to 33-year-old Sarah Everard. The body was horribly burned and dismembered, but the autopsy concluded that the cause of death was strangulation and pressure on the neck, and that Sarah had also been the victim of sexual assault and severe violence. Although Sarah's identity was officially confirmed on March 12, from the day the body was found on March 10, everyone was sure that the remains belonged to the young woman who had gone missing a week earlier in the night. And on that same day, March 10, the police knocked on Cousins's door again, but this time they arrested him on suspicion of murder. This time it was different. The police had the body, they had the video from the cameras, and they knew that the last time Sarah was seen alive, she had gotten into Cousins's car. After the forensics department officially confirmed that the body was Sarah's and with the prosecutor's approval, Cousins was officially charged with murder. The first court session was held on June 8, 2021. In this session, Cousins finally confessed to kidnapping and rape, but because his mental health report had not yet been released, the murder charge had not yet been filed. Until the next session on July 9, everything was over. Cousins also confessed to Sarah's murder. He said that he had planned it a few days before the crime and had even bought a special, strong pair of handcuffs. And his stranger confession was that he didn't know Sarah at all. That is, he had chosen the victim completely randomly from the street. Sarah Everard was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. When the court session arrived and Cousins confessed to the murder, the atmosphere became heavy for a moment. He was shaking. His head was down, and he couldn't even look anyone in the eye. Finally, on September 29, 2021, the judge announced the final verdict: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. His lawyer tried hard to at least create conditions for Cousins to be released after the age of 80, but the court stood firm and said no. The reason was clear: because this man had abused his position as a police officer. Someone who was responsible for people's safety, but played with people's trust. The court said this sentence will remain for the rest of his life. Even later, on October 27, 2021, Cousins appealed, but it is unlikely that anyone will review this request or that any change will be made to the verdict. Finally, in December 2021, just 1 month after the verdict was issued, Cousins was sent to the high-security Franklin prison in Durham, the same place where many of the most dangerous criminals are held. But the story didn't end there. Sarah's murder deeply shocked the people of England. Many couldn't believe such a crime had occurred, especially by a police officer. Widespread protests broke out across the country. Although the country was grappling with severe COVID restrictions at the time, people could no longer remain silent. Widespread protests took shape against the performance of the police, especially against the institutions that should prevent such people. The head of the Metropolitan Police, in response to these events, said, "The matter is truly terrible. We in the police department feel betrayed. Sarah was a young and talented girl whose entire future was taken from her. It's truly hard to believe." Sarah, a 33-year-old girl who just wanted to walk from her friend's house to her own, never made it. Not because it was late at night, not because she went to the wrong place, but only because she crossed paths with the wrong person. Her killer was a police officer. This is the dark story of Sarah's life. If you liked this story and video, be sure to like it to give me energy, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next videos. Don't forget the bell, because then you'll be the first to see the new videos.